And finally, a huge thank you and welcome to our panelists. I know people don't usually like to brag about themselves, so I will go ahead and do a short introduction and get things started. So first up, women's first, Lauren Jones. I think we all know Lauren in one way or another. She is the founder and CEO of Leap Advisory Partners, a leading voice in digital transformation and workforce solutions. She's a sought-after speaker and co-author of Together We Rise. Lauren is recognized as a top industry influencer, helping to guide organizations through AI adoption, tech adoption, while also balancing, her passions for racing and goat farming. So welcome, Lauren. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here. It's an eclectic background.
Yeah, that's for sure. Next, we have Aaron Wang. He's the co-founder and CEO of A Priora. It's a company revolutionizing staffing with AI-powered recruiting agents that automate the entire recruiting or interview process. With a background in AI research at Facebook and degrees in computer science, applied mathematics, and economics from Brown, Aaron brings deep expertise in agentic AI and data-driven hiring solutions. Welcome, Aaron.
Excited to be here. I know ROI was a big winner in the poll, so excited to dig into that today.
Awesome. And rounding out our panel, we have Andy Jones, CEO and co-founder of Tracker. We're a leading ATS and CRM in the recruitment technology space. He's got over 25 years of experience in IT technology, business transformation, and innovation. And Andy is deeply passionate about AI and the future of AI programs, driving smarter and more efficient hiring solutions. So welcome, Andy.
Thanks, Tommy.
All right. So I think we all know AI is everywhere, but not every AI solution delivers real value. While there might be 100 startups, only a small amount of those actually last and provide impact. The key question that we're positioning right now is how do we separate the tools that actually improve efficiency from those that just add to the noise? So in this first leg of the webinar, we're going to explore how AI is transforming recruitment, what's working, what's not, and why firms need to start with the right foundation before jumping in. So Lauren, do you want to go ahead and get us started with AI's impact on jobs over the last few years?
Sure. I mean, this is where I get really snarky at mainstream media because they love to fearmonger just a little bit, and they're, AI is going to steal 80,000 jobs, and but there's a net improvement that we'll see with jobs. So AI will take 80,000 jobs, but it will create 97,000 jobs. And that's not including, Project Stargate or, the additional projects that are out there. That is just, and for me, that's a net improvement. And so what I want people to understand is this is not replacement theory. This is enhancement. And the one question I get asked a lot is, where do I start? So one, it's understanding not to be afraid of it. Two, start with policy, then start with education, and then you start with empowerment and then empowerment. And that's sort of our that's sort of our formula for getting agencies and, quite frankly, people started. So yes, do not be afraid. If there was one thing I could leave you with, do not be afraid.
So, Lauren, good one. So on this one, this is a really good point. This is where do you see AI in terms of its impact on the industry, which is, I'd say, this is pretty phenomenal. This is, you and I have chats before where this is almost like the invention of the internet. This is email taking over post. This is, elements of the industrial revolution, but where you had people plowing fields manually, and now it's being done by machines and tractors. Someone has to build the machines and the tractors and design those and keep those going, right? So this is just a natural part of evolution. Well, where do you see this sort of? How do you see the scale of the impact of AI compared to some of those big events that we've seen before? Do you have the same mind of me that this is a fundamental shift in terms of tech?
Yes, we are at an inflection point, and I agree with you. This is the World Wide Web all over again. And in my almost 30 years in this industry, and decades working with technology, this is like the great equalizer, in my opinion. Never in my career has the $1 million firm had access to the same tools and technology as the $1 billion firm at the same cost. And so, this is the great equalization for businesses that are smart about how they apply these things. You're talking about accelerated scalability. You're talking about improved margins because of efficiencies. And again, that doesn't mean replacement theory. It just means that there are better and faster ways to do things leveraging some of these tools. And again, it's that, I kind of, it's like putting a super pack on a recruiter or a salesperson, or a cape.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you just mentioned, and I'll bring Aaron in a sec just to talk about sort of some of the foundational stuff, is that you talk about policy, education, and enablement, right? As a process, as a build, and I think that's a key one. I think we see a lot of people sort of trying to just jump in and throw AI at what they can see as a problem. They may not even know what the problem is, but they want to try and throw AI at something and hope that something gets better, almost to sort of buck the trend. The danger of that is obviously that you could be compounding a problem that already exists. So from your side, which is sort of around almost like that policy, education, and enablement piece from a consultative side, how do you see that that journey sort of echoing out? Because we from the technology side, and Aaron will come onto this specifically in the case of Apriora, but from your side, where are you sort of seeing that journey being? Are you seeing that clients are leaping in a little too ahead of the game, or are you seeing that they do need to take stock, understand what it is that they're trying to achieve first? How does that echo in your world?
It's a really good question. And I think what I see most happen is there's so much pressure on firms, particularly right now, to innovate and to stay up, keep up, and to do all of these things. And look, as a technologist, I'm the first person to tell you that true innovation does not always have to come in the form of purchasing some sort of tangible technology. It can come in the form of a new process, can come in the form of a million different things. And that's someone who loves technology. But as a buyer for both my company and our customers, one of the things that I see happen all the time is they jump in kind of right in the middle. There's no real forethought of what problem are we solving for. What's the domino effect of inserting X here? What is Y outcome? There's no thought. There's just, ouch, something hurts, or, oh, eek, I need to keep up. And so let's just check it off the list and buy said AI product. And the problem is in November of 2023, there were 10,000 businesses started with AI as some component of its offering. That's in 1 month. And that's so noisy. So, it's wading through all of the noise, which, Aaron, I'm sure, being able to discern what from what with SaaS product and AI product is very, very difficult, which, I mean, that's partly the reason firms like mine exist. But it's the jumping in the middle with no forethought and no... I'm sure with Tracker, right, you have customers that come in and they have no base requirements. That's really hard to implement when somebody doesn't know what they want. It's like going to the grocery store with no grocery store list.
And it's not even for us, it is the same, people want it, they don't necessarily understand why. And actually, if, for me, you just literally put your finger on it there, which was that it could be a simple process change, right? It doesn't necessarily need to have it. People don't, they want to try and leap on a bandwagon of HI is in my business and it's making a difference. That difference could be a fundamentally bad one if you are compounding a problem that already exists, and actually all you're doing is burdening the team even more with a layer of technology that is a layer of distraction against actually solving the problem. A lot of it seems to be boiling down to saying, what is it that we're trying to achieve? And actually if and how AI could help that, as opposed to good traditional process change, as an example. Aaron, from your side, sticking to the sort of the fundamental topic about understanding the fundamentals and not accentuating existing inefficiencies, what is your sort of advice, if you like, on avoiding sort of AI adoption missteps?
Yeah, it's a great question. In summary, you as a buyer or a potential buyer of any product should ask to really see the product live and do a real life demo. And the reason I say that is there's so many, as you mentioned, so many AI companies being created. They're very fresh. Maybe their finances aren't totally in shape. Someone whipped it up. They whipped up this piece of software very quickly, and are going to go and sell it now. You should ask, okay, let me see the product, right? What customers do you have? What bias audits have you passed, right? Can I even use this thing in production safely, right? And compliantly? You want to make sure you get these questions asked. And of course, most importantly, see the product live, right? You want to make sure that the product that you're using and that you're looking to buy is led by the product team, not by the marketing team, right? Because, you can't use, the marketing team, whatever's created by a marketing team is not going to produce ROI for you, right? It's the actual product and what they build. And so for us, we want to make sure that, hey, we build AI agents for staffing firms, right? So, the AI agent, its name is Alex. She brings her own Team Seat 2 tracker, for instance, right? And you can see her doing things in Tracker. You can see her sending out her own emails, sending out her own text messages, right? Like you really, in all the noise, you just seeing really is believing. And so that's something that I'd say to all folks that are interested in AI is ensuring that there's concrete evidence of
Actually
what
a
you're
tool.
being.
There's
Yeah,
actually
exactly.
a viable tool. Yeah. I mean, checking references is a big one, but you make a really good point. Hold your vendors accountable from the beginning to the end. Like if a vendor that you're, talking with or engaging with cannot demonstrate to you the metric that they can help you move, run. Right? The vendor should be able to demonstrate ROI, and you should have a dashboard that's continually informing you of, the efficiencies that you're gaining. And again, if a technology cannot demonstrate the metric that they move, just run.
Yeah, and actually, the two key initial steps around policy and education. So, trying to understand what it is that you're trying to achieve, and making sure that when you're watching the vendor demos or anything else, it's going to achieve that. So you're almost educating yourself on this, which is don't assume that this is all going to work. Make sure that you are seeing tangible return, or it's addressing a tangible problem, because that's the only way that you're actually then going to be able to educate the rest of your team, and then fundamentally enable it and understand whether or not that ROI is going to be realized at some point in the future. But it has to start with that sort of basic process around understanding what the vendor is doing, how they see that returning. At the end of the day, Aaron, you do a lot of this stuff. Conversational AI is the big one for us. It's why we're pushing ahead with Eva, because we see voice as being such a fundamental part of the recruitment world anyway. It's about how does that specifically address some of the problems that I'm doing, or actually make my teams better, and understanding that, creating policy from that, and then taking that through the process, rather than just going, well, we're just going to drop it in, and it should hopefully, Bob will be better at what he does on a day-to-day.
Right.
Lauren, any sort of key pitfalls that you would pull out, specifically around the understanding of sort of core issues, just embellishing on that point around understanding where does my pain sit, and then how do I address that?
Yeah, education is not a one-hit wonder. It's not an 80s rock song, right? This is something, and I think this is another pitfall that agencies fall into is a priori gets implemented. We do the big kickoff and the training, and then we just kind of go forth and conquer. We don't stay current with the tool. We don't stay engaged with the vendor. We have QBRs with our customers. Why aren't we having QBRs with our vendors? To sit down, understand their roadmap. Are you aligned from a roadmap perspective? And this is where I see duplicative buying happening, is because we haven't sat down with the errands of the world to say, what's on your roadmap? And we don't know that a future function is out there that we may be seeking. And then we go and we buy another tool, and then Aaron implements said improvement. And now we have two tools that do the same thing. And we lack, discernment of who's going to do what and what that handoff is. And that's where tech bloat comes from. And so it's staying close to your vendors and managing them like our customers manage us. And for whatever reason, I don't see that happening. And when you're following that roadmap, that technical roadmap informs your training roadmap, right? So you have these two beautiful, you should have your financial forecast for the year, your operational forecast for the year that's aligned to technology and training. And that those are your guiding lights throughout the year. And if you only have one of those, you are missing the opportunity to continue to grow and nurture the technology that you're investing in. And make no bones about it. You are making large investments in these organizations. And the idea is that they improve your business. So why would you just buy and wash your hands and go, okay, problem fixed?
And actually a great point as well. The education enablement piece is not just about understanding the vendors and alignment with them, but it's alignment with your team as well. Because at the end of the day, the big question really with everyone on this, maybe not from a business owner's point of view, because they're trying to probably look for the gains. They're looking for the ROI. When you talk to the consultants, it's not necessarily about the ROI insofar as my business is better. It's like me as an individual, how do I get better? And is AI something that's going to swoop in and take over? Now, and this is an argument that is going to be bandied around for a while in terms of the whole replace or enhance piece around the adoption of AI, which is what is it that we're trying to do? What is the end game of this? Is it to become so productive that I don't need people? We are an incredibly people-led industry in the recruitment space, and there has to be a balance. And I say that probably on every AI webinar I ever do. But so it is people-driven, or is it that they become more productive and therefore spend more time doing the stuff that they do best, which is interacting with clients, and therefore the business gains overall? And I think it's a case of, and Aaron, I know that you've got probably strong thoughts, especially where you're based on certainly Gen Z and their adoption of things like technology, which is, the traditional recruitment model of I've got somebody who understands my client's cultural fit, the type of people that they hire for best, and so on. And then I've got my candidates and their career trajectory and all of the soft stuff that recruiters do. And that, I think, is changing. I don't know, Aaron, if you've seen that sort of a fundamental pivot on the way that, certainly with Gen Z, whether you're seeing that as a fundamental change that we have to keep up with, as well as the adoption of AI.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, Gen Z and these, newer generations, they're becoming a larger and larger part of the workforce every single day. And they don't use, Google today. They all use ChatGPT, right? And so they're very AI focused and an AI forward generation. But that isn't to say that the other generations, aren't adopting AI. We're speaking about AI. We use AI in our everyday lives. I think what it's about is the quality of the AI that we, for us as a software company that we provide for our customers. It just needs to meet a quality threshold such that it's good enough to have a conversation, right? We're not going to promise you that it's going to be, the best and most lifelike conversation you've ever had, right? But can the AI agent have a great conversation with candidates, right? And do that at scale, right? That's what's most important. We can't promise you we're going to solve every problem for you, but we can say, hey, these are the problems that we can solve for you with this technology. And that's what we're going to go ahead and do. And And so I think you're going to see a proliferation of AI, and we've certainly seen that AI adoption across candidates. Candidates really do enjoy interviewing with AI across the board, across the generations. At the end of the day, they're looking for their next opportunity, and staffing firms can help them
Quick
out with
random
that.
poll, Aaron. So of the
Yeah.
last 10 cabs you took, how many of those had drivers?
Yeah, that's right. So out of the last 10 kind of Ubers that we took or that I take, they were all Waymos. They were all self-driving cars. So I'm based here in San Francisco. Today I'm based in beautiful Napa Valley. But every car that I drive or that drives me rather, is a driverless car. And the first time you're a bit scared, a bit timid. How's this going to work? But after the first time, you realize, wow, this is actually a really great experience, right? I don't have anybody in the car. I don't have to make small talk. I can just do what I do, be my best self. There's, internet in the car, and it's a beautiful car, and it gets you there to point A to point B very quickly. But that analogy is interesting, where it's actually quite similar, right? And even by the way, the Waymos, the driving cars, are actually cheaper than Ubers because you don't have to pay that person up front driving you, right, and making small talk with you. And so it's cheaper for me as the consumer. And that's what AI is doing across industries, right? An AI agent for driving is really no different than an AI agent for recruiting. Um, and so what that means for you is you can get, better cost as a staffing firm, as essentially Uber, as essentially Waymo. And the person that you're serving, the candidate or the client, right? They're going to have a better experience because they're interacting with this AI agent that writes great reports, or can go in depth into your experience as a candidate, right? If you're a technical candidate, in a way that maybe a traditional recruiter can't.
When you use the word better experience, the phrase better experience there, Lauren, you're keen to understand your your thoughts on driverless cars, knowing
Self-driving. Look, I'm a Gen Xer, right? Absolutely not. I am not having Waymo drive me across the Bay Bridge. And Aaron and I were talking about this at the beginning, but I'm a Gen Xer. But here's the crux of all of it is choice, right? The agency that provides choice for the generation that they're going to engage with is going to be the agency that wins in the end. So for example, good old Gen Xer, we like email, right? I want to email my resume. A millennial, they want to text. You're a Gen Z who will engage with a bot 16 minutes longer than they will a human being. And on the topic of Gen Z, which will comprise about 30% of our workforce come 2025, and then 42%, as we continue to move forward. Look, 74% of Gen Z rank a high starting salary and job stability as their priorities, but 77% prioritize work-life balance. And then they will also leave a job if there is not the technology that they need to be successful. They're the first generation to leave a job if the technology that the organization has isn't there. So, and they're, Gen Z is funny. They're a bit of a dichotomy because despite their, digital nativity, they like being in person. They like in-person work.
Loyalty, right? I mean, it is two sides of the same coin, but it is a bizarre one. So they want that probably. I think it was like double the importance of loyalty and a long-standing career than the Gen X, right? I mean, it is a bit of a strange, but they love the gig economy, right? At the same time.
Yes. They want control. When you look at side hustles, right? Millennials are most likely to hide it. Gen Z have come out and said, I have a side hustle. I am smart enough to know that it takes multiple streams of income to make ends meet. Gen Xers, we're still trying to figure out what a damn side hustle is, right? So, and so we have to be cognizant of the generation we're trying to attract and adjust accordingly. AI allows for that agility, right? Yeah. And agility is what you need to scale at speed, to scale with excellence, and to scale with, diminishing margins, right? Customers are asking for things better, faster, stronger, cheaper. And that's not going to go away. So we have to figure out how to get that done.
Yeah, and I think that choice bit is the bit that's we'll see compressed. That whole, for me, I'd say I'm sort of leaking into Gen Z on the basis that if I actually can, when I'm online and I'm trying to deal with something online, that I have to wait for a physical human. For me, I'm just thinking, oh, this is just going to be delay. My nan used to talk. People, would phone up the electricity company just to have a lovely chat, would talk the hind legs off a donkey to do that. Whereas most people now is like, if I can deal with a bot, I know it's going to scale. So I know that I'm actually dealing with somebody straight away, and I'm probably going to get the answer that I want, and then defer to a human, but it's an exception rather than the rule. And I think, I'm definitely moving more in sort of that direction. I guess, Aaron, are you sort of seeing this sort of almost like this choice band narrowing now that people are moving more to actually dealing with a bot, and we're talking about multiple generations here, not just Gen Z, but just how are you sort of seeing the evolution of that as conversational AI gets better?
Yeah, I think an important point here is just regarding the difference between a bot and an AI agent. I think that's really interesting. A bot is one that, you call AT&T today, there are a certain number of decisions, right? It's a decision tree, right? So that you can only say yes or no, right? And it'll go from there. Whereas an AI agent will read the candidate's resume, right? Have an in-depth conversation over like a video call like this one, like over a Zoom or over a phone call, whatever you prefer, because it has its own phone number, it has its own Zoom account, or has its own team account, and can have that conversation with them, write the notes back up into Tracker. Um, that's not what a bot does, right? A bot just has a text conversation and, yes or no. And so those are very different. And with bots, the folks aren't really, as receptive to that as an AI agent, because the AI agent just has a lot more intelligence, right? And can do a lot more, both for the candidate and again for the staffing firm and the client, right? Like the AI agent can go ahead and, oh, this person did really, really well on their interview. Let me quickly write up a report, like essentially a delivery report, send that directly to the client, or at least share that with the recruiter that owns that role or that job order, and allow them to share that with the client, and that'll improve my conversion rate. Hopefully they'll actually get placed. And so we're starting to see a lot of these actual practical outcomes coming about. People are getting, we have some customers that a majority of their placements now are actually coming from their AI employee, which is insane to think of. At least a year or even a year ago, right? But we have, it's really, really, it's hard because there's there's a lot of noise. The signal that is good, right? The companies that are good and the software that is good is fantastic. And I think we're going to see a lot of adoption. And my hope is just for staffing firms, for customers, you got to do your research, and you really you got to wade through all the noise.
And I think that was why, for me, Apple was the obvious partner. The whole concept of Eva for me was, it's been 7 odd years that I've been sort of harvesting the idea of Eva, and it's really now coming to the fore, which is to, Tracker, we are blessed with a single source of truth. We have everything in one platform, and that means that we can actually use that structured data to fund simple insights and actions, right? Using AI. It's exceptionally good at this. But what we've also got to do is we've got to feed that back. So Aprioro for me was the key one. So, Aaron, you and I would have a conversation. It's taking action points, summarizing the call. It's pushing that information back into Tracker, for example. And then that's a self-fulfilling prophecy, because then I can use that data to actually become more efficient at what I do. And it may be that I don't see it in the day-to-day, right? It may be that it works out that Aaron, you and I, Lauren runs emails, right? So it may be that I can look at all of this and say, look, email Lauren, don't call her. She's not going to pick up the phone. She never has, right? All of these calls are incomplete, but she's responding to the emails on average within 8 minutes. and we're seeing that traffic come through. And I don't probably see that. It's wood for the trees, right? Aaron, you and I could be like, he loves a chat. Aaron's always, we want to catch up on this, we want to catch up on that, but he only really picks up the phone after he's come back from his run at 9:30 or has done his yoga or Pilates or whatever it should do today at 9:30, and that's actually the best time to catch it. So for me, we have to use this sort of structured data to create, generate insights and actions. But on the flip side, like, we have to use technology like a priori that says take simple actions and turn it into actually complex data that we can reuse again on the flip side. And that's how I think you really implement an AI solution to constantly learn and generate, become better and better. But it makes the people better. It's not a case of saying it's going to replace that conversation that you or I have, or that email necessarily that I had with Lauren. It's still two people making decisions. If we're just better at it, right? It's more productive, better use of our time and so on.
I think the time aspect is really interesting, if I might add. That is, a lot of recruiters, I talk with our customers every single day. That's a big part of, why we think we can offer better product experience. It's like, what do you want? What are you looking for? What's your biggest problem? How can we help you and build that for you? AI is not going anywhere. We want to be your partner, not just another vendor. But we hear all the time is, I've got, if I'm a staffing firm owner, I've got all of these candidates in my database. We spend so much money on LinkedIn, Recruiter, and Indeed, and Monster, and all these other things, Dice. We get all these applicants, and so we've just got this huge database, but no one's really using them. Our recruiters are just going to go to LinkedIn Recruiter and just type in and do manual sourcing, even though you're leaving money on the table, right? With all these candidates that, let's say you get 100 people that apply for this job, certainly one of them's got to be good, right? It's just a pain to actually go through all of them. But if you had a team of AI employees that could go out and find their phone numbers, give them all a call, give them a text, leave them a voicemail, right? Send them an email, just let them know that you called. If they pick up, have a conversation. Oh, you mentioned you worked at Facebook. What'd you do at Facebook? Oh, you used Python? What's your favorite part about Python? Right? Again, just like a human would, when taking all that data, writing that up to Tracker, pinging the recruiter saying, hey, I just had this conversation. I phoned 100 people today, but Andy was exceptional. He clearly knew what he was talking about. I was digging in because as an AI agent, I have that technical expertise, and I can tell you this guy was great. You should submit him like right away or before anybody else does. And that's what's important, getting them on a call quickly, submitting them quickly, and just beating everyone else to it before they're adopting, great technology.
I'm seeing sort of on the chat. I think it's probably worth putting this down into something real, right? A real life example of how this can work for the best. So if I'm trying to fill a position for Lauren, as an example, and I put that advert out, so it's gone out, and maybe we've used, we've got a difference between sort of assistants and agents. And agents is a good term, Aaron. I think one we should really focus on now, right? Assistants are the ones that can say, like, I need to flavor this, to really sell this up. This client has sent me this JD, it's awful. I need to fluff this up, sales it up, and get it onto the job board so that I can actually get these guys applying for this role. And then those applications are coming in to this. Now, typically it might be somebody has just come home from work, okay, or it's a Sunday evening, and they're thinking, I've got to go to work on Monday, and I don't like my job, right? So I'm going to go and have a look at some of these other jobs, and they see my ad for Lauren's business, and they're like, this sounds great. So this could be 9 p.m., 10 p.m. At night, right? So, and then that goes in. Nobody is working in the agency at that point, the point that somebody applies for Lauren's role, okay? Now that could be one person, that could be lots of people. So where the point that they're applying for that, and I submit my resume, for example, for that particular role, we should be able to look at that and say, look, from what Lauren has written in terms of the role that she wants, right? So the skill she's expecting, the experience she's expecting, where this role is, level of seniority, all of those things, compare that against what has been submitted, and then quiz that candidate while we've got their attention at that point to say, your resume is not really covering these particular elements. Can you just embellish on that side, right? So you're collecting a layer of information that's over and above. You then have this exceptionally scalable, efficient, and frankly, exceptionally human-like technology called a priori, which then can engage with that candidate and ask, non-biased, it doesn't get tired, it's exceptionally focused, and can really drill down and try and understand, what it is that makes that candidate tick. So on Monday morning, when Lauren comes in and submissions have gone over to her, it's a pack. We've got a pack of information that says, it's not just the resume that we've now got to try and glean our own interpretation from. We've actually now got a layer of screening, and we've got a layer of a priori, of AI-generated conversation that actually tells us whether or not we think this is a candidate is worth the salt. Now, Lauren will have a conversation with a couple of those candidates. It can be exceptionally fruitful and productive, because we are really focusing on the bits that the technology is telling us to focus on, because all of this stuff is all fine. So it's a very productive call. It's a great experience for the candidate, because they're applying for a role, they're not happy, and somebody is taking notice. And for me, these are the journeys, if you like, that AI should be enhancing in terms of the candidate. No, we're not replacing the recruiter. We are arming that recruiter. You know, at the end of the day, AI tools are enablers to make people better at what they do, and it's all about that decision-making process. And that's fundamentally a difference, I think, between assistants and agents. And again, Lauren, I don't know if you've got any input on really where those two sit in your world, or any sort of commentary on those. But it does seem that we do basically have these two fundamental areas of AI.
Okay, so a couple, there's so many things. So I want to go back to a couple things Aaron said that I think we need to kind of put our claws into. So Aaron, you said AI is not going away. It is not going away, guys. It is not going away. Putting your head in the sand isn't gonna fix it, or make it go away. AI won't replace you, but someone that knows how to use it will. When you look at the data generationally at who's using what, 80% of Gen Zs between the age of 18 to 21 are using AI for over half of their daily tasks. 93% of Gen Z between the ages of 22 and 27 use 2+ AI tools weekly. Millennials, 80% of them use 2+ AI tools. Gen X, even us old Gen Xers, use tools like ChatGPT for 70%. Now, we happen to be a little bit more skeptical, Gen Xers, and Gen Z is quite skeptical as well. But we are in a very, very human industry. And so we have to be careful to understand, one, that AI is not perfect, right? There are hallucinations, much like humans, right? Yeah. So, you know, we can't have different expectations, and we have to walk into it understanding maybe, like you said, two categories. And if I could create a rule for you, it's people on relationships, technology on repetition, right? Or AI on repetition. Understand in your daily life, whether you're a recruiter, a salesperson, a branch manager, a regional, whatever, understand what gets in your way every day. When you can start answering that question, the proper application of tools like a Priora or Tracker or what have you become exceedingly obvious. And I guess it all goes back to sort of that where we started at the beginning from a foundational perspective. Seek to understand before you seek to be understood. I would like it's simple things like that. We cannot overcomplicate this, and all of the noise in the industry, I think, just creates that anxiety.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I agree. And I think...
What's up with boomers? I love that question. What's up with boomers? Hey, they like snail mail, Eddie.
Yeah, and don't underestimate the power of these. I mean, Jake, you just put on there about how would we train? Don't underestimate how easy it is, or how powerful AI is in terms of being trained. You know, say as an example, you know, we have a long established platform that's been around for many years, and we're fundamentally layering on. You know, for me, I think SaaS is gonna change fundamentally, right? SaaS is still great. People still want stuff in the cloud, but the layer of AI that's going to be sitting as a natural language barrier to doing the tasks that Aaron and I were talking about before. we basically said to the AI engine, we trained it on what it is that our platform actually does, and then it went and worked out how it is that I find candidates, send an email with rich content, or open specific records, or assign candidates to a job or whatever. Don't underestimate the power of this technology, and how easy it is to become tailored to a particular thing. And I guess in that is the health risk, which is, as Lauren said, it is fallible, right? There are elements of this that is fallible, and that's why right now it's what is this balance? It can achieve a lot. It can take a vast amount of data, disseminate that down to actionable insights, predictive analytics, action, whatever that be. And on the flip side, it can take what seems like simple conversation and actually generate a lot of content as well. But it is fallible, and we almost right now have to marshal this, because at the end of the day, our businesses are relying on that piece. So I know that we want to get through the next main stage, which is about the future of AI. Where do we think, I think we originally penned this, guys, when we were chatting for a long time about stuff. We were looking at, where does this sit in however many years time? Well, I don't think we can look even 2, 3, 4, 5 years in the future. This is super close. And I think we should literally be focusing on the next 12 months. What is it that we think is going to be likely to happen with AI in the recruitment space in probably the next year? I don't know, Laura, if you want to open this topic.
Okay, well, we have to focus on usage, right? The statistics right now coming out of SIA are not fantastic. In that mid last year, we were at 48% of agencies were intending on using AI. 40 and the other 48% were already using. I don't know what was happening to the remaining 4%, but they won't be around if they don't choose to get their head out of the sand. And then as we come into 2025, we're at 55% utilization with agencies. It's not moving fast enough. If I could give you a comparison, so Claude, which is the Sonnet LLM, could take in about 200 words in early 2022. And today, it can read The Great Gatsby 3.1 times and pull out a singular different sentence in 2 seconds. Or a singular word, difference between the 3 different versions. And so I say that and put that analogy out there just to demonstrate how quickly all of this is moving. And again, not to put fear or anything, what I'm trying to inspire is action.
Yeah.
People have to take action, get educated. Candidates today are 78%. I know I throw out a lot of, this is how my brain works, guys. So I don't remember what I ate yesterday, but I remember dumb statistics. But a candidate is 78% more likely to be promoted and or hired if they have prompt engineering or AI skills on their resume, or as a part of their skill set. So it's getting educated. And for my boomer commenter back there, what's really interesting about boomers is they are amongst the most ambitious in predicting AI's, workplace impact, but only about 30% of them use it. So they've got a lot of ambition. They are very optimistic about it, but we still have only about 30% using them. So all of that to say, you have to take action today. Empower and enable and educate your people, and educate yourself. The future is bright with AI, and we are going to be able to do things better, faster, stronger between blockchain and AI. I mean, our work world is fundamentally changing, and those tasks that were repetitive and we didn't like doing, we will have digital workers like Alex and Dwight and all of these other tools to do those types of tasks for us. And gone are the days where we have to hire 12 people overseas to do remedial tasks.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't agree more. I think, Aaron, I know you've got a view on this. I think from an overall ATS tech space, it is moving exceptionally quick. And you're right, this was like the days of when we had like RAM, right? For those people on the call that understood RAM, right? And it was like we had 6 meg, and then it was like 32. And it was like, oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
And really the GPT engines are progressing at such a rate that we can do so much more, and they are getting smarter and smarter and smarter. And this wave of AI is massive, right? And it is becoming vast. The takeouts really are, for me, are you've got to get your head around what it is that you actually want to achieve and where does AI sit within that strategy. And that is all about that policy and education piece, right? Before we even tackle enablement, what it is that we're trying to do. What the worst thing we can do is that the wake of this wave is complacency, is rely on it so much to just solve problems, but that we either compound problems that already exist, or we become lazy because AI is deemed to be it can just take over all of this stuff that we're doing, and we lose that human touch stuff that we've peppered through this webinar. So, for me, the key takeouts are, this wave is big and it is coming, and you have to understand where we sit on that. But the health warning, the red flag is, do not become complacent and think that this is just going to make you, because if you're an agency that is just adopting all of the AI that is out there, you will become a grey-faced agency that can't differentiate yourself from any other agency, and it will boil back down to the people in that agency. We can't lose that, right? So that would be, for me, Aaron, your thoughts on this, on the mentality side of this?
Yeah, I think it's it's certainly not about replacing, right? Like, the recruiters that I talk to, they're overwhelmed, right? I mean, just in the chat, someone had, 4,000 applicants for this role that they posted, or maybe 1,000 applicants in 4 hours rather. I don't know any human that'd be able to go through all of that. I mean, that's just that's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes sense, right? Because applicants are using AI to apply to thousands of roles every single day, right? And so that if you get 1,000 applicants, there's definitely one, right? At least one. There's assuming a 1% acceptance rate. There are 10 folks in there that are great, but wading through the other 990 it's just not possible,
Yeah.
right? And so having an AI that can just go out and do all that, and so what the point there though is that it is actually human forward, right? Because um, your recruiters can then decide how they're spending their time, right? The recruiters aren't spending 8 hours a day on the phone with people that just aren't qualified, right? You're gonna know now that if your recruiters are on the phone, it's with a candidate that is qualified, that is authorized to work in, the US, or is within the pay range of the role, right? And has experience in the role at a prior company, because Alex did all that grunt work for you and is just connecting your recruiters with vetted candidates.
Yeah.
And so that's actually a more human process, because you're connecting right humans with right humans.
Yeah.
Such a great, such a great point, Aaron. I will say this because there was some chat in there about when I post a job, I get 1,000 applicants. Look, AI is going to programmatic, in combination, allow us to limit the number of applicants, so that rather than, wouldn't it be great if you have one job with one opening, right? We get 67% of our candidates in the first 7 days of a posting, right? So these 30-day postings make zero sense, right? Things are more transactional today. And when we have one opening for one position, we don't want 1,000 applicants. That's exactly what contributes to the black hole theory in our industry. But with tools like AI, we can limit the number of applicants. So if there's only one opening, let's get 25 applicants in or 20 applicants in. AI can help us determine, like as Aaron said, which one of those 20 to 25 applicants is the right applicant, and then put those 5 candidates in front of recruiter. And we've responded to all of them. So we're, improving service, we're improving connection, and then we're doing a work that's closest to the dollar by talking to people that have been pre-screened by AI. And look, we already have agencies who have full stem to stern recruiting and hiring processes done by AI. Now it's in very, very specific verticals and in very, very small doses. And I am not suggesting that that's going to be the future, because I do believe this is an exceedingly human industry. But if we keep experience at the forefront of why why and how we're applying AI, we will be better for it.
Yeah, and the human bit, I think, is the takeout. A lot of everyone on this call, everybody listening to this call, we are kind of like, if you like, we're tech driven essentially, and we're in this industry all day, every day, talking to hundreds of clients, right? So we're almost the custodians of this technology, and it's our job to sort of come up with where we consider to be these journeys and where these journeys can be improved by this. But it's actually down to the people on this call, the listeners here, the recruitment agencies, which is, fundamentally, you guys are going to be driving the differentiation. All right. So what is it that recruiters offer that that is better or different to AI? As we've already said in some of these cases, what we're trying to do is allow 1,000 applicants to be processed, whittled down to the 10 that Aaron's tool would say, yeah, these are probably the 10 that are going to be the most suitable here. So let's focus our attention on here. So we become instantly efficient, but that's not the end-to-end process. This is just one stage in the process. It's the recruiters, as we go through this evolution, who will define what it is that differentiates them from anybody else, any other agency, whether they're using AI or not. This will be ultimately how the clients and the candidates alike will differentiate themselves from the competition, you as an agency from the competition. So this is actually a very big community project in terms of what does this look like in a year's time? What the agencies that are succeeding with AI underpinning their processes look like? And to Aaron's point, it's about making sure that when we do have a phone call with a human being, that we are armed with all of the knowledge that we can to make that experience the best it possibly can be, to find the right person for that job fundamentally, and that improves both the client's bottom line and that candidate's career trajectory. And that's all we do really want to do as recruiters. We have to use these tools to do it in the same way that farmers use tractors. They were given the keys. They have to now work out how that bit of machinery is going to make their life easier, even though it's not actually replacing the crop right at the end of the day. So it's, that is not generated. It's simply the method of planting it and the method of getting it out of the ground. I know, Stormy, we're approaching the 5-2. Is there anything we wanted to do in terms of sort of round up any sort of the key takeouts?
Yeah, I think we've actually had a couple questions around the difference between Eva and Alex. So I think that would be great for us to kind of discuss. So Andy, do you want to talk about Eva, and then Aaron, you can kind of give an overview of Alex, and just to kind of set the scene, A Priora and Tracker are different companies, but we are very much partnered. So we do currently have an integration. Eva is Tracker's AI agent that's going to be coming in August, with the thought around like, how awesome would it be to be able to talk to your ATS and have it provide, data like Andy was talking about earlier around like, what are my top 3 candidates for this Java role? And maybe what it could do is it could actually go in and it could review information that Alex had gone through and done these interviews for, and read that information and come back and say, okay, these are your top 3 roles based on all of these interviews. But I will stop. Obviously, I am passionate about it. But Andy, go ahead and you can talk more about Eva.
and then that will dovetail nicely into what Aaron's doing. So Ava is all our AI is free, right? We cannot avoid this. This will become a fundamental part of any SaaS platform, right? SaaS won't die, but SaaS will change fundamentally as AI takes hold. We can't ignore that. So for us, all of our AI is free. It should become a fundamental offering of every SaaS platform, and frankly, it will. I'm only bucking a trend here, but it will. Ava is essentially, as I say, 7 years in the making. We have a single source of truth in Tracker. So we have everything that's front, middle, and back office. So everything that is being done in the business from a BD perspective, sales perspective, so it's all in the system. So we are able to take structured data, and as I mentioned before, layer AI on to explain what this data is. And then we can use natural language to extract stuff like compare these 2 reports and tell me a pattern of stuff that's happening with maybe the specific sources of candidates that are most successfully placed given that this is a blue collar job in light industrial in this particular part of Chicago. And I can drill into that information and try and understand ROI. And I'm using it to glean, to disseminate that level of data. It could be that I'm using it to search candidates, open records, find prospects for a particular candidate based on their resume, the skill profile in their resume, and so on. Write emails, all the generative stuff. So, but it's a natural language interface, which could be typed or spoken, and that will and converse with you in either typed or spoken language as well. So it's a natural language layer that will sit along Tracker. We all know that recruiters like to talk. So you can talk to their clients, they can talk to their candidates. Why wouldn't they talk to their ATS? Because no recruiter I know is actually happy with loading up an ATS and typing stuff in. So what we're going to try and do is take a lot of that pain away. Where Priora comes in is really where fundamentally we're putting job posts out, and we need to drill through a ton of applicant information that's coming in the most efficient way possible, so that we can layer on that information pack that goes back to the consultant that says, I'm arming you with as much information as I can possibly glean about this person so that you can make the most informed decision. And Aaron, that's a lovely segue to you to sort of cover off that element of it for me.
Yeah, Alex, again, A Priora in Alex, which is the AI agent that we've built here, is separate from Tracker. We're integrated and partnered with Tracker along with other ATSs. And what we do is essentially 80 to 90% of what your human or traditional recruiters could be doing today, it's completely automated away through this AI employee that's working for you 24/7. So that means, reading candidate applications, sending out text messages, and sending out emails, scheduling time with those folks. So she has her own calendar link to find time. And what's great is she's available all the time, right? And if a candidate books with her at 7 p.m. at night, another candidate can book with her at 7 p.m. at night too for a separate role. Because again, she can be on multiple calls at once. That's no problem. Has engaging conversations with them over like a Zoom call or a phone call or whatever platform you may like, video conferencing, writes up the notes directly into your ATS, into Tracker, and saying, hey, this person is really great. If Stormy is my recruiter, Stormy, you should take a look at this person and submit them right away. I think they would place. And doing all that data, end to end. So then again, your recruiters can hopefully just spend more time with qualified candidates and yeah, again, place a whole lot more, right? Your recruiter's time is valuable, right? You're paying them to do good work, and you want to make sure you're making sure that everything they're doing is worth that time.
Well, thank you so much to all of our panelists and to everybody who joined today. I would encourage you as next steps to, number one, evaluate your current challenges, understand where AI could potentially help, like evaluate your processes, lay things out, kind of get it written out for your whole team. And then whenever you're looking for an AI solution, start with a pilot program, track the ROI, understand what the value actually is, and then leverage insights and case studies to make sure that you're making informed decisions and you can actually support, the AI adoption of the product. Because ultimately, if you buy 50 different solutions, if your team doesn't adopt it, it doesn't matter. So I will sign off with that. And again, thank you so much. And we will send you out an email shortly with follow-up information.
Thanks, everyone.
That's
Thank
guys.
you.
Great to see you. Thanks,
Thank
Aaron.
you.